Hey guys, okay, so I'm working on Mykonos here for our game Urban Terror, and I thought I'd pass on a little cool, while working at it, tip of how to start managing your scene when things start getting a little bit big-ish as to and confusing as to the various different elements as you start to build up your map to a substantial level. Now, working every effing file becomes a little bit difficult to manage as to workflows to the point that um, you know as you're building things and adding them in and doing lighting builds, the thing gets to the point where you're spending a lot more time doing lighting builds than you actually do building. So one of the tricks that have been around for ages as to this, let's say, annoyance, is to, well, if I was working in 3ds Max, I would start X-referencing my files, which is basically taking the various different elements, putting them into a separate file, and then within 3ds Max, I would then point the map's reference to that object, and it would load it in and make it visible to the project, but as well as manageable as to being a separate element. So in context, if, for example, I've been working on the tower here a little bit, as you can see, it's definitely work in progress, and I got different ideas of what I want to do with it and everything else and what have you, and all this other stuff that I've been placing in this environment is becoming a little bit difficult to manage as far as something as simple as building and rebuilding the lighting, just to see how it's coming along, looking for errors in the mapping and stretching, and um, jumping up here all the time, going to build and doing a map check to see if there's any problems with all the different elements as to UV mapping overlaps or distortions and etc. And doing all that into one big map like this could take a considerable amount of time as far as workflow goes. So once again, getting back to the context idea, Bob comes along and says, "Hey, I have some ideas of what I can do with this tower." And then Tom comes along and says, "Hey, well, he has Tom has a few ideas. I have a few ideas what I can do about this building over here." So this creates, we normally create a problem, particularly working in when working in our game is based on Edtech 3, so working in Radiant, it's difficult for more than one person to work on a map at the same time and introducing their stuff into the project, so it becomes visible. A way around that is to simply, Bob says, "Hey, I can do some really fancy stuff with this tower, but I don't want to stick my fingers into your map." So to kind of solve that problem in general, within our team environment, we don't really have what you would call a map maker. Instead, we refer to him as a map boss. The map boss is more like a traffic cop who directs traffic of how things should be staged and where should they be put, and then how should they be introduced into the project in a manner that we're not stomping it on everybody. So in theory, following this simple trick, this tip, you might want to call it, is to simply using the F-reference system that's been available in 3ds Max for years, because that's what it was. That's specifically what it's designed to purpose it's designed to serve, is to have a lot of people piling on to the same project, but not to get in anybody's way. So the first step, of course, is to select an object that needs tailoring. This here is a map object, so it that's just as part of the course of the artist improving that as a separate element. So when they update the files, it updates all the different elements in the scene. But let's say, for example, I want this building here to be part of that workflow type of idea. With it selected, you can see it over here. This is I designate things by building. I don't give them definitive names and so forth. I don't call this the marketplace storefront thing, I just give it a name. So I build everything gray box stuff and fabricate them. I'll show you this map here, what it actually looks like in 3ds Max. This is the map. This is the master map. This is everything that that I use to create proxies for. So in this case, the tower has been forked off into another file, and I create a proxy volume and then export that. If I, for example, take that and export that out, export selected, I can then, okay, I'm going to pull this off in case I have to kind of take a tour of my drive to find it. So I have a specific spot that I have that located, so I gotta find it. I should have set this up beforehand. Okay, that'd be map projects. Okay, here's something that is part of this. No, it's not in there. It's in oh, where'd you go? Okay, there you are. Okay, and then going from there to in here, and no, not there. Oh, there it is. Okay, go in there. Okay, this is my project folder for Mykonos 2. My project that I want to target for is under projects, under urban terror, under content. Okay, under content and maps folder. Here's our maps that we're currently working on. Under Mykonos, this is where I'm going to put a folder. Call that folder CRCE source FBX. Now, you probably have bought a package and you install it, and it Unreal pops up and says, "Hey, there's been some source changes." Okay, so new folder. Call this TOWER. Under tower, I'm going to export it into tower PROXY. So as you can see, this proxy is the size of the volume that defines the area, the space that the object has to fit into. So it defines space in three-dimensional space. So if I go ahead and say OK, it exports it, done. And if I come over back to the project here, you can see a change in the source content file has been detected. So anything you put underneath our underneath the project folder content, it becomes visible to the project. So it's now asking me, do I want to import it? Now I can set this up for just to do it, so I don't have to interact. So we have what we have is a workflow. So based on the workflow, if I go import, it pops up with this. Okay, all the information is correct, and I go import, and that now imports that source file into the folder. So if I go into my project in my browser, we know that it's all visible to the project. I can go in and oh, where are we? Okay, see, it's starting to get a little bit out of hand. Okay, go into my source FBX, go into my folder here for tower, and if I drag and drop that into the scene, it's because the level is locked. Okay, the level is locked. Okay, that's this level here. Okay, so I have that selected as my persistent volume. Now let's try it again. That's okay, yeah, okay, we don't care about that at the moment. Now that places that proxy object into the tower level. You know, this is Bob's working version of the asset. We'll get to that in a moment, but because it's in place, we got our location up here. We can just click on that and it pops into place, and there's our proxy. This is AKA, this is also referred to as gray boxing. So we look at this and it goes, you know, we need a little bit more refinement here, because we have a fence here, so we need to kind of incorporate that into it. Trick I'm using is just to overextend the walls and so forth. So let's say okay, we got a little bit out of bounds over here. You can see that, hey, it's pretty close, but not close enough. I won't get too fancy. I'll just go in to demonstrate how we can go about making adjustments to our box here. Okay, so we got our box here and defining the area. Okay, this is just, as I mentioned, a rough outline of what you can do. We can say, okay, we want to give Bob a little bit more working space, so we're going to go over the ledges, Now, this is stuff that, that would be in the domain of the map boss, of creating the proxies, that an area of space that he can turn to the other guy, to Bob, and say, listen, anything you build has to fit in this space. Okay, so we got that done, and we still have our name here, box proxy. So let's go over here and send to, not send to. Be nice to have a send to, but export selected again. So if you have an stupid keys sticking, it's time for a new keyboard. At least watch it, I guess. So we'll say over top of that, we'll say yes, and we'll hit the OK button. Okay, this could be Blender. It doesn't matter, any 3D applications, because the same thing's going to occur. It's going to say, oh, there's been a change. Now, do you want me to import it? And then we press yes. And there's our volume change that has been adjusted accordingly to the volume of space we want that to be filled in. So if grade boxing wise, if we want to, we can fill up the entire space and break it down into separate spaces, such as this. We can turn off our visibility, turn it back on, change the streaming method from blueprint to always loaded, and we can lock it. Map boss would say, okay, I don't want anybody messing around with this except Bob, so now we can't even select it in the space. So somebody's working on the map can go, I can't select the tower, I guess I'm not supposed to. So the map boss basically controls the traffic, what gets included, what gets excluded. He can decide to remove it at any time. I'm not going to do that because it's work in progress, but I can remove it at any time. And to actually have access to this, what I can do is recent volumes. I've already been there, so I can go tower, okay, and I can go okay, save selected, always a good idea to take into consideration. And if we go unlit, we don't have any lighting in here. There's our box. Now I decided, okay, as the owner of this box, I can go, okay, you know, I've done what is necessary to fit my stuff within this space. They can delete that out. This is their volume of space. So for example, that they can contour and make updates and etc. So if I go back to recent levels again, and I load in my Mykonos map, and I say, ooh, definitely gotta save that, save selected. Okay, so I hit that, and as you noticed before, we're still locked, can't select it, but our proxy volume is gone because now we are X-referencing this full as an addition to our levels. Okay, so if I hit lit, you know, you might be looking at it and say, well, you know, this doesn't really fit the environment. Now, then the impulse is to go, of course, go up here and at least set the quality to preview and then do a compile, which then you might as well go for lunch or whatever and hope that by the time you get back it'll all be done. But we really don't need the final build light solution quality, the production level quality as part of the draft, you know, building and developing this as we go along. This is called iteration. It's referring to content creators' natural tendency to start with an idea, a rough shape. It could be a box, it could be a sphere or whatever, and then convert that into, you know, a massive boss level character with all the material goodies and etc. So if the lighting doesn't fit, and we want to see how this kind of looks in contrast, we have solutions for that too as well. So we can go to levels, we can load back in our tower, and once again we don't see anything. So if we go lit or unlit, and we can see that we're properly placed, what you can start to do, okay, we're using the dynamic lighting system, or at least I am. I don't know if the other guys are following suit, but I use the ultra dynamic sky system, which also has a weather system built into it. And I'll go to my master lighting levels selection here, and under there I have templates that are already made for some of the levels I'm working on, so I have access directly to whatever map is using what lighting setup for that particular map. So it might be a weather map that has rain and lightning storms and etc., or it could be a nice summer day kind of situation here. And here's my master lighting that I set up for for Mykonos, and I can just, as I dragged into the main map, I can put that into my levels and set its its method as always loaded, so that it's loaded in. Of course, you don't see it because we need to select lit. So here's all the sky and everything in its beauty. If it was a stormy or snowy map, that would show up too. But but we only have one object in here, so we can certainly go. I'm going to just do a lighting quality preview build, just so to prove the point of, and etc. Okay, that's why I do a build. Let it stream out a bit here, baking its textures. I got an old pooter that's not up to snuff, I guess, with all the new stuff. So it kicks off the swarm. Just a kind of on-the-fly kind of tip here. Pay attention to your swarm here. Here's our swarm in our bar down here. So if we double-click on that and we go to settings, cache settings. This is placing stuff onto my C drive into my application data folder. So if you have an SSD drive, expect this to grow to a point where I just did some house cleaning the other day, and all the cache files and so forth in total amounted to 100 gigabytes for all the diff. And it saves the data, of course, for every map. It saves data for every version of the engine on that map. So I had stuff in there that went way back. So we kind of build that, and we go, okay, well, we got some material problem here, so we need to kind of fix that. Bob is particularly fussy, so we can select and consolidate these materials. We know that this is now edit in place, so once again in 3ds Max or Blender, we can segment the file out. We don't need the proxy volume anymore, because we have already established the volume of space we want our map to be in. So we can click that out, and we can update based on just the objects that are contained within this map as to no more course. Now, this is what I really like to consider. I particularly, coming from more of a 3D application background and a video game developer, this is referred to as edit in place, meaning that this location relative to 000 origin is the same in Unreal as well as in 3ds Max. I just set my world coordinate system to what is it, centimeters, I think. Okay, so then I start breaking things down into the separate components. So I don't need this full facade as a one-shot deal. So I can start building things as components, as part of the completed map, and then just put them into my tower map, and then build it up, and then of course that translates into the main map based on the whims and wills of the map boss. So once again, if I'm not particularly digging this pillar here, so I can isolate that, and I can modify that to taste. I'm double thinking this divider in between here. It's too busy. So, and then I could bring in materials and test it and make it look good. And of course that translates to the output once I updated the asset in Unreal 4, translates into my customized map here. So once again, we've already did a lighting build. We can do, I won't let you suffer through it, but we can do a production level build based on the same lighting information that we are using as far as Mykonos goes. So once I'm done this, I haven't tested this out. I believe if you try to import this map or import it into, well, it's not really importing. If you reference it in your project, it would see that there's a duplication, and then just basically ignore the duplication. Hopefully, test it out, find out for yourself. Always test, always test theory, always question the tutorial. Okay, so we have our master lighting, and we just want to say, okay, we don't want to involve that in our save, so we can just go ahead and remove the selected. We say yes, and it removes that. But our lighting is still, because it's a static mesh or whatever, we're baking the information into the mesh. So it won't jive with whatever it is that's surrounding. For example, if you have an object close to it that's casting shadows, it won't cast shadows onto this object or bake in the shadows, you know what I mean, as you would normally expect. So we'll go back to Mykonos. Okay, we'll save that. We've updated our build data. That would be the light maps and etc. that is creating that problem over in our C drive as far as being a data sucking, space sucking vampire. And ta-da! See, we even have the kind of lighting on this side that was reflective of our space, of our current lighting system that we're using. Okay, another tip is I usually set all my lightings to dynamic, so I'm not rebuilding. This gives me a good sense of what the lighting should be. But if we change the lighting, obviously it changes the, if we want to change to, here's a good example, I think. If I select that, I can go to my details tab here, and I can set time of day to, say, it's starting to get darkish. You can see how other various different elements in here don't really particularly look darkish. So this is not a bad thing. It's just knowing what the tools, how the tools behave as far as the results would be. So even so you can see that it's, you know, much more brighter time of day. You can test to see how it reacts to your scene. And then of course we can actually change our streaming method here. Oh, or what the heck is going on? Oh, that's locked. Okay, so once again, level boss, oops. Once again, the level boss decides what should be locked and what should be unlocked. So we'll select locked, and then we'll select that. What was it going to do? I forget. Oh, we were going to change the streaming to blueprint. So based on setting it to blueprint, hey, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? Bob's actually coming along. So as a map boss, I can encourage him to and validate that he's heading in the right direction. Oh, you kind of missed a bell up here. Okay, so, you know, I'll just lock this off so you can do some more work onto it. Nobody can come along and change your bells on you. Okay, and of course we can update this map, but locked, we shouldn't be able to update that. We don't want to update the tower while he's working on it. You don't want to mess around with somebody else's work. Okay, so if we hit to play at this point in time, oh, don't hit compile. Man, I hate it when stuff isn't actually showing up on the screen, especially when I have a bunch of stuff. Okay, so if I hit play and I go to simulate, it should put me in this position, that right here. And you can see that the tower disappears because it's set to streaming. So we can then play the map, and the collision is contained within, obviously within the tower. So every time it pops in and pops out, it opens up the collision. So we can start seeing seeing deeper into our map without stuff getting in the way that normally would. You know, for example, I don't want this block to be visible at the moment. The problem is, of course, if I hide it, hide it, hide it, go away. Never. You're not hiding for some reason. How about you? Can you hide on me? I'm not gonna. Well, you get the idea. You start hiding stuff, and eventually, oh, I know why. I'm not on the persistent level. Am I? No, it's not highlighted, so I'm not on that level. So now it should hide. Nope. Huh. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. I do a lot of stuff just intuitively, so I might be possibly pressing the wrong button. Anyways, you hopefully get the right idea here as to being able to, you know, that you can be working on a map as an individual and have a much easier time with things by blocking things in and locking them in, so you don't inadvertently grab something and move it around. I do that, you know. That's a habit I don't really want to get into. Okay, hold on. Change streaming method. Okay. Always loaded. It is a work in progress. But as you can see, they'll build an entire team around the idea that the map is the project. It's not the game. It's, you want to make it the best, awesome looking map, but it takes a while for this stuff to, as I say, it's an iterative process. So it takes a long time to just get an idea, a sense of volume and space, and etc. Like the tower here, I'm kind of digging it. Needs fine tuning as to shape and form, and then play around with materials, which everything is done in the tower file, and then introduced as the next reference to the map, based on me being the map boss. Okay. Oh yeah, I know I went a little bit long on this, but this is a really cool feature of Unreal 4. I like the idea, even the fact that you can create layers. Layers has been, this is stuff that's been around forever. If you're a 3D artist working in 3ds Max, and you have an understanding of cooperative environment development, and this is actually a pretty good way to do it. I just sat here and I realized, what would be cool is if the bells kind of moved back and forth based on the wind, and okay, I'll tell Bob and get him to do it. Okay, talk to you later, guys. Bye.